Hey guys, this is Dan from O'Neill Brothers Racing, and notice that some of you guys are starting to get our 46cc, so wanted to do a quick install video, show you guys how to put it together and so forth and so on. So check this out. This is all the parts that you're going to get from us, all the hardware. Here's our 46 engine. This is our workhorse here. We've tested her a lot, so she's a little dusty, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and get into this install. First thing I want you to do is set the motor on its side. You'll notice your 4 mounting points here, and we're going to start with the first brace, which is this rectangle brace. It's really straightforward. You're going to receive 2 M5 by 20 bolts, and that's what you're going to use to put this on. So we're going to go ahead and pop those guys through there, and you want these holes, these 2 holes, facing are on the clutch side of the engine. Now if you want to use Loctite, you can. I'm not a big fan of Loctite, but if it makes you feel better, that's fine. So let's get those on nice and tight. Now we can get into torque specs and everything if you want, but I'm building this like you would at your own house if you didn't have a torque wrench. So we're going to hand tight this for all you guys out there. Okay, second is our L bracket here. Same, pretty straightforward. You're going to get 2 M5 by 30 bolts, and that's going to mount underneath. So same thing, look for the indents, pop them through, and you want these holes facing the clutch. Well, let's go ahead and do the same thing. Alright, now we got the bottom of the mounting. Check this out. Motor sits nice and straight, nice and flat. I think you guys got a good idea. Alright, second thing is we're going to do the clutch side, and we're going to do what we call the triangle brace. Turtle Dave did a great job putting our name on there. His bracing and kits are unstoppable. So you're going to use this brace, and you're going to get 2 M6 by 22 button heads. And that's what's going to go right over here. See if I can get it into the picture. You're going to put these bolts right through there. These 2 bolts will already be there for you guys. These 2 will be absent, so you don't have to worry about it. Nice and tight. Should look just like that. Alright, and we're going to get to this brace later. I know you guys are looking at it, but we don't need that just yet, okay? Second thing I'm going to want you guys to do is put your exhaust on, or your exhaust header. It's going to look something like this. This one's been ran. So you're going to get an exhaust gasket just like this. Now, a lot of guys like to flip them or come in here. What you need to do is kind of fold this in there like that. And what that gasket serves is also a second barrier for the wind coming from your flywheel through your shroud. It also is another barrier, so it gets the air from your flywheel getting through the engine. It's making it cool down. So it's important to have this flap and everything like that. Okay, so you'll have two M5 by 20 bolts, and then you'll have 2 lock washers. Pretty straightforward. Put the holes through. You guys can hear that. It's a big ass helicopter flying above our shop. Thanks whoever did that. So the torque spec for the exhaust is 100 inch-pounds. Like I said, I'm building this as if somebody didn't have it. So you want to get it tight as you can. Don't sit there and try to strip it. But wait until it gets tight, give it a little 8-turn, and you're done. Leave it alone. You're also going to have 2 little O-rings on here from Jet Pro on his pipe. Really, I would just run one, like save the extras for for later. Put it on this outer ring right here. It's going to seal just fine. Okay. All right. It's looking pretty good already. Let's go ahead and put the pinion on. Now this one, notice we got a big old bell shaft here. Here's our 26 black bone pinion. Pretty big. And what I usually do is there's a flat spot right here. And you want to line this up, that set screw right there. It's going to slide on. Maybe you might have to give a little pound here and there just to get the gear on, but once it heats up and gets on there, it's gonna move on and off just fine. But what I want you to do is put it on, but don't tighten it yet. You want to do that when you get it in the car. All right, moving along. Now it's time to actually put it in the car. With this 26 pinion, you can run a stock center drive at a 58. We'll have other gearing out. We'll have a 24, a 28, and a 30. And then we'll also have some center drive options as well. I'll have a gearing bracket here up real soon. Now, with this 26 pinion, we designed it to run with a 19 spacer, stock spacer. I've dropped this motor into about 5 different chassis, and 4 out of the 5 chassis went ahead and dropped in with 19 spacers. This car is our beater car here at the shop. We tested everything in here. This takes 18s. There might be 1 or 2 of you guys that have to use an 18 spacer, just let us know. And it's because of the chassis. These chassis bend, they start bowing, and if that's a problem, give us a call. But for the most part, 4 out of 5 chassis dropped in with 19 spacers without an issue, so that's pretty good to us. So we're gonna go ahead and put it in. And don't worry about the gear mesh right now, because you're gonna adjust that once the motor's bolted in. Okay. Alright guys, we're back. I got this bolted in. I want to show you. All even and all that. Thank you, Shawnee, for your help. You can see the motor's nice and dropped in. It's on there. So let's go ahead and continue on. Alright. So second we're going to do is the gear mesh here. Now Sean, you probably need to come over here. Take a look at this. Now remember I told you guys to leave the pinion loose, and this is why. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to cut the top of your holder here so the pinion can be free. I cut a little more than I needed to. You guys can get a little tricky with it. That's pretty cool. So what I like to do is keep it flush with my finger right here. Some guys like to pull it out so it's right in the middle. Either way, it's going to work just fine. These are black bone gears. They work really well. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. You can use, like I said, you can use Loctite if you like. Make sure that you're lined up on that flat spot. That's the beauty of this. You don't have to take the motor out to change the pinion. You can just undo it and do it. So I'll show you for you guys how easy this is. Look at it. Boom. Alright, put it back on. Easy. Look at that, little jiggle. No big deal. Line it up. Nice and lined up with our flat spot. Check your mesh, tighten it up. You can Loctite if you like. check it, make sure it rolls nice. Looks really good to me. So let's keep on keeping on. All right. Now we're gonna get to this. Sorry I get all close to the camera like that. All right, here's our side brace, part of our pipe bracket and center brace support. Pretty neato stuff. Probably got a big old zoom on my brows. First you're gonna start off with these M5 by 22 button heads. They're gonna go right through here. And this is gonna bolt to your center support. So you're going to take these two bolts out. Now this is a stock center. Most of the aftermarket should work. Some of them are a little exotic. You might have to modify the top to do it, but really you just want it to sit flat. Most guys have stock, which works okay. So you go ahead and bolt this down. Turtle had a great idea of incorporating not just the pipe mount, you know, just having two separate mounts, but he said, why don't we make one mount that served two purposes? So we did a center support and a pipe bracket, so it cuts down on vibration and gives us a nice solid point to mount the pipe. Now you notice right here the drive shaft coming through the motor. Oh yeah. Yours are going to look a lot cleaner. This was my first time ever doing it. So if you got a big old wompy rear drive shaft, you probably want to change it. I mean, you shouldn't be driving with a wompy drive shaft anyways. So, but there's plenty of clearance there. It's not going to hit the flywheel. There's tons of space there. Made sure that we're not going to let a drive shaft hit our flywheel. Okay, so we're going to move on. So now we're going to get on to the center bolts right here. And these have these cool little washers. I'll show you in a second. These are M5 by 15 cap heads with a lock washer on it. And then these are a special washer meant to not split this apart. So we want you guys to put these on like so. And go ahead and bolt it on. Now Turtle Racing gave us plenty of room in here as far as why it's slotted, so you can move the motor in and out for gearing. There's plenty of room there. All you gotta do is change the pinion, underneath, loosen these up, and change the gear real quick. Okay. So you can use an L wrench right here, or I have me a nice little round, roundy guy, is like what I like to call him. You can tighten these up. Loctite, that's your call. Nice and tight. Those two bolts are together. And now you pretty much have the motor fully bolted into the car. If you notice, this is pretty solid. Try to flex it. It's really good. Okay. Last but not, well, not last but not least, we got a couple more things to do. We're going over here to the carb side. We're going to go ahead and do the linkage and carb, which I'll explain. Sorry to get in your guys' face again, just grabbing all my stuff. So you're going to get a pretty stock velocity stack. This is a HDA 223. This is a big pumper carb, but don't be afraid of it. It's actually really easy to tune. It's just like a stock 668, just beefed out, steroid style. So we'll get into tuning here in a little bit. You'll have two M5 by 55 carb bolts, and then you guys have probably noticed these are actually what we call velocity stack gaskets. You actually have one on each side of the carburetor, just like that. If you have a gasket that has two little holes right here, that's the wrong gasket. Don't use it. You want to use two velocity stack gaskets, and that's about it. You also notice that there's a hose coming off this. Now this is pink. That's what we had in the shop. You guys are going to have like a yellow hose, and what this is called an external pulse. On other engines, your pulse comes through your manifold into your carburetor, and that's how your motor pulls in fuel. On this style engine, we do an external pulse. It's just the way the carburetor is designed. So You can go to a bigger fuel line. The line that comes with it works just fine. So you're going to loop it up like this on top. You'll notice this nipple. That's for your pulse. And you're going to bolt that on. But what I want you guys to look at first, before we put it all the way on, is your little linkage lever here. Okay? We modified this with a stock like linkage arm. And these things suck to take on and off. At all costs, try not to pull this off. If you do, you're gonna have to wind it up again. But if you don't need to, you don't need to. So the carb actually sits upside down on the engine, just like this. So what you're gonna do is I want you to take your linkage, your prop linkage, all right, and you're gonna go through just like that. Let's show you guys one more time. You're going to take it in just like this, okay? Now you guys, your shrouds are going to be not cut or anything. You just go ahead and weasel this through and then you're done. But I want to get to the other side of the car and talk to you a little bit about this. Now, a lot of guys run different servos and different horns, and you know, either they're running micros or giants. It's hard to explain exactly how you're going to have to do it. But what I gave you in the kit was this little collar spacer, an M3 bolt, M3 by 25, and then 2 washers. The space, you want to be able to space the linkage up. If you have it down here, it's going to lean. So having this spacer here allows it to be nice and lined up, and that's how you want it to sit inside. Okay, this linkage is one I bent up quick. You guys have the really nice ones, so it will be really nice and matched up for you. So you want to go ahead and put this on, and the way I have it is I have a ton of linkage stuff, so I just kind of made my own. You can use the stock collars for the linkage, these little stock guys. They work just fine. It's the same diameter. You can use the spring. I like using fuel line because I want this thing to stop. This thing has a lot of power, and you know, you got to have some good brakes and make sure this linkage is going to hold. So you want to put all these little collars on. Where's my little itty bitty wrench? Right here. I believe it's a 0.5. And just kind of leave everything a little loose for right now until you get the carb on. Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. Like I said, if you need some help, give us a call. We can figure out this collar. Like I said, there's so many guys, there's so many different servos and horns. It's hard to hit every one of them, but pretty much the principle is you're lifting the servo, you're lifting this linkage up. So your collar will help you with that. So let's get back over here to the carb part. So like I said, we got the linkage right here. Let's go ahead and feed it through like I showed you earlier, like this. So now it's hooked up. We're gonna get this gasket. I think I dropped the gasket. One sec. All right, I'm back. So we're going to start off pretty straightforward. I'm sure you guys have done this before. V-stack gasket, carb, V-stack gasket, bolt it on. Nice and tight. Now, easy with your guys' plastic ones, just like any plastic manifold, you don't want to over tight it. 50 inch-pounds is the torque spec for the carburetor on the manifold, but just make it nice and snug. If you don't have a torque wrench, don't over torque it. You don't want to crack the manifold. Pretty easy. So we talked about this pulse hole. Go ahead and just slide that sucker on. That'll work just fine. And then pretty simple. If you want to jump over here, Shawnee. So since your carb is upside down, everything's going to be a little bit different. So your feed's going to be on top now, and your return is this little guy down here, if you can see it. Boom. You prime the bulb, make sure you're pulling in fuel. All's good. While you got this thing here, it's probably a good time to maybe do the preset on the tuning. Since you're right here, the carb's out and exposed, let's go ahead and do it. So you're going to have your low and your high, and it's going to be in the same order. You have a low on the right side towards the engine and your high on the left side. And we're going to do, just like I showed you in my tuning video, you're going to want to go ahead and zero out both needles. Okay? And then this is your idle screw. I like to go about halfway through its throw. Just about right there. I like to keep them. So on the low, you're going to go 1 full turn and 1/4. So 1 1/4 on the low. On the high, we're going to do 1 turn, a half turn, and 1/4. 1 3/4. So 1 1/4 on the low, 1 3/4 on the high. Is that performance tuning? That's break-in, and that's where you should tune from. If you guys are a little interested in tuning, you can always watch my tuning video. It seems to help a lot of guys, and that will go over the basics of this. It's the same thing. Next is our filter. With your kit, you get a DT1 triple stage. These work really well. What I like to do is I like to silicone the inside of the filter. I like to take some 1211, some 3-bond. We love this stuff here. You can find really any kind of silicone, rigid stuff, and I like to coat the inside of this filter. Okay, because I sometimes see dirt coming through the backside of this filter. So go ahead and silicone it up if you like. I'm not going to do that to this one right now. Put it on. And then tighten it up. This will clear the cage, so don't worry about it. Tighten it up, and then if you do the silicone little mod I told you to do, that let it sit overnight. I get those things, you know, you get those things like that where you're gonna rip them off. They're on there so tight. You can run a pre-filter, fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the linkage right now. So pretty much what you're gonna want to do is do your regular setting of the linkage. If you notice, it's nice right up here. It's gonna move right in and out of that. Pull it back, whatever you need to do. Setting up a linkage, pretty straightforward. I'm sure you guys know how to do that. Make sure your endpoints are set correctly, so forth and so on. All right, we're almost there. It's kind of looking like we're almost done, huh? Let's go ahead and put the pipe on. With the pipe, this is our raw pipe. It's one of our test pipes. It looks a little ugly, but it worked really well for us. You're gonna get this grommet with the pipe. It's gonna have a bolt, some big washers, a little washer, and a big grommet. You guys can see all that, and the nut on the back side. Okay. Thanks to Jet Pro Engineering making us this pipe. This is actually a GoPed pipe. Gives a lot of torque to the motor, and it's been a tested pipe we've used for the GoPed guys for a very long time, so we know it works. So what we're gonna do first is on the pipe, you take this little grommet, you can put it right through the hole right there, okay? You're gonna take this guy, okay, and it's gonna come through here. 1 watt bolt, washer, big washer. Then this is gonna go on the back side. Now, it's a little tight right here, so I like to start underneath and fold over. Now you're gonna have that O-ring there and it's gonna wanna wiggle on. Mine's a little, you know, it's worn in already. So you might wanna maybe wiggle it on first and then put the bolt on. Either way you like. John's gonna cross up. Okay, see how the bolt, washer, big washer, grommet, brace, big washer, nut. All right, thank you. Now it's a little tight in there. That's all right. This is a big motor. A lot of stuff going on in there. So what I'm gonna do is use a 10 mil open end, a pair of pliers. I'm sure you guys have one of those. So you kind of want to grab it like this because you're gonna have to get it in there. Maybe a pair of needle nose. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab a pair of needle nose. Hold on. You could just like fast forward. Okay, we're back. So I got a pair of needle nose. It gets in there a little bit better. And just kind of get it started. Pretty easy, not very bad. Use your 10 mil, tighten it up. If you have another 10 mil, go right ahead. Use a 10 mil, 10 mil. Pretty much straightforward, you're just going to tighten this up. Suggest using a 10 mil and a 10 mil, but we're just installing this. Make it nice and tight. You want to make sure that the pipe has a little bit of rock, but not a lot. You should be able to pick this car up by the pipe easily. And that's pretty much it. I'd like to thank all you guys for watching and supporting us here at O'Neill Brothers. After this is pretty much normal break-in. It's the same thing as our tuning video, same break-in procedure. Tuning, just a little bit richer on the high, no big deal. If you have any questions or concerns, either email Sean or give me a call at the shop. We'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you guys, and I'll see you at the track.